I'm going to highlight what you should write down for the problem. Okay, so there's one, two. So everything I highlight, this is what you should write down. Actually, you know what? Let me not highlight in yellow because that's a little hard to see. I think they have a... it's too light blue. Okay, so what I highlighted, please write down. So here it says we have a hornless, big H, in cattle, no horns, is dominant over horned. You know, having those little horns or the bigger horns. A homozygous hornless bull is mated with a homozygous horned cow. What will be the genotype and phenotype for the first generation? So the first thing it wants us to do is figure out what are the genotypes of the mom and the dad. The bull is the dad, the mom is the cow. So for the parent generation, I'm gonna put the sign for the female. If the mom is homozygous horned, Caleb, do you remember what homozygous means? We had this vocabulary yesterday in our notes. So what is homozygous? You can type.
It means same and joined together. So
the same.
Joined together, yeah.
The same letter, right?
Yeah.
So if this mom is homozygous horned, and it tells us that homozygous is the horned is the little h, what should the mom's genotype be? So the same, right? And then she's little h. So what should I have here for her genotype? Does anyone want to tell me? Alexa, thank you. Alexa wrote little h, little h. Okay. So now the dad, or the bull, he is homozygous hornless. So Lena, homozygous hornless. You can unmute yourself or you can type it in the chat. I don't mind. Again, we know homozygous means the same. And if he is hornless, which is big H, what should his genotype be? Yeah, write what I'm writing, for sure. No, is he big H, big H? Is he big H, little h, Lena? Is he little h, little h? All right, so some of you guys are putting big H, little h. Remember what we said, homozygous means the same. So, thank you. I'm gonna have either capital, capital, or lowercase, lowercase. Now he is homozygous hornless, and it tells us that hornless is capital. So again, the same, and then capital H, so he should be capital H, capital H. Now, it would be so rare that you ever get the genotypes. They are gonna give you words or descriptions, and you have to figure out what the genotypes are. I'm telling you, maybe 1 year, so one class might get lucky, but they're never gonna give you the genotypes of the parents. You have to figure that out from the description. That is the hardest part about the genetics, is figuring out what the parents' genotypes are. After that, it's the same process over and over and over again. So here we have the mom, here we have the dad. Now we're going to do the cross. Does anyone have any questions about why this is capital H and why this is lowercase h? Little h, big H? No? Okay.
That's the same, so
They're homozygous, so remember homozygous is the same. And then they tell you this one is hornless, and they tell us hornless is capital. So the same capital, okay? Same thing with this one. It's homozygous, but horned, so little h. So now we're going to make our Punnett square box. And we're gonna put the dad on the top, the capitals. Then we're gonna put the mom on the side, the lower cases. And then we're gonna combine them. So remember, you put the column with the row. So we have a capital H, lowercase h. Then we put this one, capital H, with the lowercase h. And all we're doing is we're combining the mom and the dad's genetic information. Okay. Does anyone have any questions about how you combine them, how you put the letters together? No? Now we're gonna break it down and we're gonna see what does this information tell us. If in the boxes, the offspring, this represents the possible offspring, you have at least one. You can have two or you can have one. If you have at least one capital, and in this case, in every single box, we have the one capital H, you're gonna have the dominant trait, whatever the dominant trait is. So 100% of the kids are gonna be hornless. Because all of the 4 boxes have at least one capital H. H is not, little h is not for the hornless, it's for the horned. The mom, which is the cow, is horned, which means that that's little h.
So in order for it to be 100% hornless, at least one in each box has to be capital?
Exactly. Okay, if you combined, like, let's say we had homozygous hornless bull with a homozygous hornless cow, all of them would be capital H. So we'd have 100% too. But if at least one of them is capitalized in the box, then that would be the dominant trait, okay? Why, Alexa, let me understand what you're saying. You said why, not Bettis. You said, why is it little h for the hornless if the beginning after hornless there was a capital H? I'm not sure what you're saying. For the hornless, we had a capital H, right? From the dad. When you put them together, you remember you take one letter from the mom, one letter from the dad, and that makes up the kid? This is heterozygous, but we still have a capital, so it's still going to be hornless, right? Do you understand that? Or it's still kind of like, all right. So that's what we're going to go about. So now let's do this one. So let me highlight for you guys what I want you to write. You have to write is. All right, guys, so hopefully you finished writing everything I highlighted. Now, we have red fruit, which is dominant, capital R, over yellow fruit, which is little r. It says a plant that is homozygous for red fruit is crossed with a plant that has yellow fruit. So for plant 1, what is the genotype? Shazid, can you tell me if it's homozygous for red fruit, what would be the genotype of plant 1? Remember what homozygous means? And then for red fruit. Yes, Sienna, you're correct. Yes, Yasmin. It's okay if you're wrong, Shazid. Just go. Can you tell me what is the genotype for plant 1? Okay. So remember what homozygous means. Homozygous means we either have 2 capitals or 2 lowercases. You cannot have a mix of both because then that's hetero. So homozygous for red fruit is capital. So then we're gonna have for plant 1, capital R, capital R. Okay, remember that those words, those vocabulary words in genetics are very important because you are not gonna get the genotypes for the parents. You have to figure it out. And then we have plant 2. So for plant 1, it was capital R, capital R. For plant 2, it has yellow fruit. Anytime we have the recessive trait, it shows the recessive trait. That means, Sienna, Alexa, you are correct. We are going to have the recessive trait twice. So that's the only way you can show it. So we have little r, little r. All right? So it's going to be like this box from before. Actually, no, it's not. Because the other one, oh yeah, we are. We're going to be the same. So we have capital R from the plant 1, little r from plant 2, and then we're just going to mix it. So capital R, little r, capital R, little r, and then over here, capital R, little r, capital R, little r. So just like before, we ended up with the same. So we have a homozygous dominant parent and a homozygous recessive parent. 100%, if you look here, every single one of the boxes contains a capital R because every single of the 4 boxes has a capital R. 100% will have the dominant trait. So we're going to have 100% red fruit offspring. Another name for offspring in genetics would be our F1. Okay. Generation, if you want to put that, F1 generation. The parents would be P1. All right. Any questions so far? No? All right. The way, Alexa, I know in this one that it's little r is because it has the recessive trait. In order to have the recessive trait, which is yellow fruit, you have to be little r. So like if you were blue-eyed, you would be little b. If you were non-freckled, you'd be little f, because those are all recessive traits. Anytime the recessive trait is shown, it's the 2 lowercase, okay? All right. So again, guys, I don't care if you get it wrong because we're practicing. That's why I've labeled it practice. We'll explain why, or we'll deal with misconceptions. So now this one doesn't tell you a letter. We don't have a letter. It doesn't tell you like brown is this and blue is this. But we can just make up a letter. So if we have brown eyes, we're gonna put capital, oh, let me get off the highlight. We're gonna do capital B for brown eyed. And then we're going to do lowercase b for blue eyes. Okay?
You did it as a big letter, right? Because it's dominant.
Exactly. Brown eyes dominant, so that's why it's capital. Blue is recessive, so that's why it's lowercase. All right. So now, it says we have a brown-eyed man whose mother was blue-eyed, marries a brown-eyed woman whose father has blue eyes. So we need to figure out for the man and the woman, what are their genotypes? So we know that they are brown-eyed, right? So they have at least one capital. Because in order to see the dominant trait, you have to have a capital. But the mom in this case was blue-eyed. So the only way you see blue eyes is if you have little b. So what would be the genotype for the man? If he's brown-eyed, but his mom, who only had little b to give, what would his be? Kayla, Alexa, you are correct. Good job. So he would be heterozygous, big B, little b. And the reason is his mom is little b. She only has little b's to give. She doesn't have a big B to give. She only has little b's. So remember, you get one letter from your mom, one letter from your dad. So then the dad gave the big B because he's brown-eyed, but the mom only gave a little b. Same thing for this woman. She's brown-eyed, but her dad has blue eyes. So her dad only had little b's to give. So she's gonna be heterozygous as well. Big B, little b, okay? So we wanna know what is the probability that this couple will have a blue-eyed child. So when we do the cross, we have the man on top. Let me put him in blue. Now we have the woman on the bottom. Or the side, I'm sorry. And then we're just going to combine them. It doesn't matter in this case which one goes first. Okay, in this case, we'll have the big B first. You always put the capital first. But like in this case, since they're both capital, it doesn't matter if you put the moms or the dads because they're both capital. Then we have capital B. And in this case, it didn't matter if I put the blue first or the red first because the little b's either way. So now looking at the boxes, how many would be, or what percentage would we have blue-eyed? Blue-eyed, not brown-eyed, but blue-eyed. Yes, Stephen. Yes, Alexa. So look, remember what we said. In order to have blue eyes, which is the recessive trait, you need to have little b, little b. So only one of the boxes has two little b's. So 1/4 or 25% of this offspring would be blue-eyed. Okay. And
So what letter did they get from their parents? The B, little b?
what do you mean?
Or like, so how come do they both have the same thing, like big B and little b?
Because both of them are brown-eyed, right?
Uh-huh.
So then they're going to have at least one big B. Remember, anytime you have the dominant feature, you have at least one capital.
Oh.
And both of them had a parent that was blue-eyed. Since blue-eyed people only have the little b's to give, the parents have to be a carrier blue-eyed too.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All right. Does everyone see why it's 25%? This is the only box that has little b, which represents blue eyes. All of the other ones have at least one capital, so they're going to be brown-eyed. Okay. All right. Now let's continue. I have so many more examples. Yesterday, I don't know if we did this, the tongue roller thing. How many of you could roll your tongue? Or no, was that 7th period? You are dominant. So in humans, being a tongue roller is dominant over a non-roller. There's some people who cannot do it. I don't know, they have the non-dominant gene. So a man who is a non-roller, so remember, he has the recessive gene, marries a woman who is heterozygous for tongue rolling. So let's do the man. And then the woman. Oh, hold on. Let me tell you what to write down. So tongue roller, R, little r. All right, go ahead and copy that. I'll give you guys like a minute to do that. I would like you to try and figure out also the genotypes for the man and the woman. So we have a non-roller, so he has the recessive trait, and heterozygous woman for tongue rolling. Okay. Nope, Yasmin. All right. Devin, you are correct. Good job. So now we have a non-roller. Let's see. To Tabitha. What would the man who has the recessive trait, what would his genotype be, Tabitha? You can type it in the chat or unmute yourself, whichever you want.
Two lowercase r's.
Perfect, thank you. 2 lowercase r's because he has the recessive trait. All right, and then for the woman, Jacqueline, you can type it in the chat or you can say it out loud. What would the woman who is heterozygous for tongue rolling, what would she be? Jacqueline, are you there? All right, let's do Yulia. What would the woman's genotype be? Yes, Melissa, you are correct. Think again. You are correct, Yulia. It would be capital R, little r, okay? So we would have the man, since he has a recessive trait, little r, and she's hetero, the woman is heterozygous, meaning, remember, hetero is different, so a capital lowercase. So when we do the cross, the woman is capital R, little r, and then the man is little r, and we bring them together. So we would have a capital R, little r, and then in this case, we'd have a little r, over here, a capital R, little r, and then down here, little r. Okay. Does everyone get how, like, once you figure out the genotypes of the parents, how to do the box? Yeah, no one's confused about like where I'm getting these letters from, like why I put a capital R here but not here.
Does that matter where like you put the woman and man on the box?
It doesn't matter if you put the woman on the top, I don't care, and the man on the side. Usually I just always do that just so I don't get confused, but it doesn't matter. Shizzy, do you have something to say? Go ahead.
It was the same question.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Okay, so now I have my offspring, and it let's see how many of them are going to be tongue rollers versus non-tongue rollers. So for my offspring, I have 2 boxes with at least 1 capital R. So 2 out of 4 will be tongue rollers. I could also write this as 1/2, right? It's the same thing. And then same thing for my non-tongue rollers, because these are little. So 1/2 would be non-rollers. Okay. Does anyone else have any other questions about this? Do you guys kind of see the pattern? Do you guys see how you can get the... So remember, you really have to pay attention to what they're telling you to get the, what's it called? The genotypes. So now, what would happen if we combined 2 traits at the same time? So before, before we had to draw this like crazy 16 box and do all these crazy stuff, but that's ridiculous. So now, I'm gonna show you an easy way to be able to combine or do a dihybrid cross. So yellow seeds are dominant over green seeds, and then round peas are dominant over wrinkled. So we're gonna cross 2 heterozygous. Two heterozygous plants. So go ahead and copy what I have here. So it's telling us it's heterozygous for both traits. But I'll let you finish writing it. Let me give you a minute to write it down. All right. So we are heterozygous for both. I'm gonna give you guys the thing. So for yellow seeds, because it's the dominant trait, I'm just gonna put a capital Y. And then the green seeds would be a lowercase y, okay? For round, I'm gonna put a capital R. And then wrinkled, since it's the recessive, would be little r. Okay, so sometimes if they don't give you the actual letters, you can come up with them on your own. If it takes up 2, that's fine, Devin. Or more, it doesn't matter. So then here, we are heterozygous for both. So it means the 2 plants are capital Y, little y, both of them, and then capital R, little r, all right? So for plant 1, it is capital Y, little y. And then capital R, little r. Remember, the reason I know this is because it tells me it's hetero for both. So then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do my Y's in the box and then do my R's in the box. So I'm gonna go here. And then plant 1, I'll put on top, capital Y, little y. Plant 2, I'll put on the side and I'll make it green, capital Y, little y. And just so you can tell the difference. And I'm just gonna cross them. All right, so I'm gonna do that. And I'm gonna do the same thing with my R's. Is everyone okay up until this point? Does everyone see what I did? All I did was combine the genotypes for plant 1 and plant 2 for each trait. Yes? All right, so then the first thing we're gonna see is how many yellow. What's the fraction for yellow? Remember, yellow is dominant, so it would be capital. Here, how many yellow boxes do we have? Robert, can you tell me? And please tell me as a fraction. Are you there, Robert?
Can you repeat that again?
Yes. How many of the offspring, tell me as a fraction, are yellow? How many boxes? So I only have 4, right?
Yeah.
And yellow is dominant. So how many are?
So 3/4?
Thank you, 3/4. The reason is I have at least 1 capital in 3 of them. This one doesn't have a capital. So 3/4 of my boxes would be yellow. So then that's pretty easy because this one's the only one left. So for green, I would have 1/4. And now for Let's make round gray. So for round, how many would I have round? Albert, can you tell me? Remember, round is the dominant. How many of the boxes show at least a dominant, one dominant letter?
For both, right?
No, as long as it has one dominant letter or capital letter, that's all it needs.
Okay. I would say 3/4.
Exactly. So 3/4 would be round because they have at least one capital R. And then for the other one, let's make that one like wrinkled, would be only this one, 1/4. Okay. So then let's say I wanted to find out how many are yellow and wrinkled. How many kids would be yellow and wrinkled? Once I figure out my fractions, super easy. I would take my yellow fraction, which is 3/4, and multiply by my wrinkled one, which is 1/4. So 3 times 1 equals 3. 4 times 4 equals 16. So 3 out of 16 possible kids would be yellow and wrinkled. Let's say I wanted to do green and round. Actually, green and wrinkled, right? Let's do that. Both of them are 1/4. So 1/4 times 1/4. 1 times 1 equals 1. 4 times 4 equals 16. So 1 out of the 16 kids would be it. So do you guys see how if we combine two, if I asked you for yellow round, what you would do? Yes? Okay. So tomorrow I'm going to give you, did you say green and round? Like if I, no, green and wrinkled here, but if I did yellow round, what would it be? But tomorrow what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you guys this one for you guys to do. Okay, so we'll do that one and then we'll do our lab. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye. So go ahead and do the cross that it's asking for there. Those of you who just joined us right now, please do the cross from yesterday. We have brown feathers are dominant to gray, yellow legs are dominant to white. It wants you to cross a male bird that is heterozygous for brown feathers, but it has white legs, and a female that is homozygous for brown feathers and heterozygous for leg color. I'm gonna give you guys 5 minutes, okay? It's okay, Devin. Sienna, you need to do what we did yesterday for this one, remember? So cross your Y's, cross your R's, and figure out the fractions of how many you have. And then I want to know for the kids, how many are going to be So for how many kids or what fraction of kids will be brown with white legs? Okay. Tell me it in a fraction. Mm. No, George. Go back and look at your fractions again. After school today. You are correct, Sienna. Good job, Andres. Yes, you are correct. Okay, guys. So now let's see. Yeah, can you tell me what the male's genotype is? If he is heterozygous for brown but has white legs, what is his genotype? Type it in the chat or unmute yourself, whatever you want. So he's heterozygous for brown, so big B, little b. And what about for the legs? He has white legs. Good job, George. Yes. No, Yuvia. You already put big B, big B, or big B, little b. What about the Y's? If he has white legs, what would it be? Okay, right. He has white legs. So the white legs are little y. So remember, if they have the recessive trait, the only way to have the recessive trait, the only way is to have little. So Devin, you were correct. It's little y, little y. Okay, make sure you understand that, guys, because getting the genotype is the most important. If you can't get this, then everything else is going to be wrong. So if you still don't understand the vocabulary, if you still don't understand that if they have the recessive trait, if they're showing blue eyes, if they're showing no freckles, if they're showing yellow or white legs, then that's always going to be little. You need to remember that. All right, so now we have the female. Let's see, Fernando, can you tell me, for the female, she is homozygous for brown and heterozygous for light color. Can you tell me what her genotype is? Are you there, Fernando? Good job, George. So homozygous for brown feathers. Brown feathers are big B. Remember, homozygous means the same, right? So brown is big B, so we should have capital. Do you see that, Fernando? Okay, and then it's heterozygous for light color. So with the Y's, what should it be? Exactly, thank you, Lori. So big Y, little y. Thank you, Fernando. Again, guys, you have to understand the vocabulary. If you don't get the vocabulary now, go back into your notes, look at it, understand what it means. Look at the notes from yesterday. Look at what we were doing when it said homozygousness. Make sure you are paying attention to what it says, because this part, getting the genotype from the description, most important. So then what we're going to do is we are going to go and we're gonna separate them. So we have the B's and then the Y's. So I'm gonna put for the male, big B, little b, and for the female, big B, big B, okay? And then I'm gonna go over here for the Y's. For the male, I'll put little y, and then for the female, big Y, little y. So I'm gonna do my crosses. And I have big B, this one and this one. In this box, I have big B. Over here, I have big B, little b, and then big B, little b. Okay. Here, I have big Y, little y. And down here, I have little y. Over here, big Y, little y. And then down here, little y. All right. Sienna. Yeah, 100% have the big. So now we want to know how many are going to have brown feathers. So the brown feathers, the way you can get it is if you have a capital. In the boxes, how many boxes are there at least one capital B? All 4, right? So then all 4, brown would be 4 out of 4. And our gray color would be 0 out of 4. Okay. And then now we have yellow legs over white. For the yellow, we have, it's the dominant. So if we have a capital, how many have a capital? 2. So 2 out of 4. Thank you, Alexa. And then for the white, I'm gonna write it in black. We have 2 out of 4 because these are white because they're little, okay? All right, so now that we have this, my question was how many are brown with white legs? If we look at the fraction, brown is 4 over 4. And then white legs, little y, is 2 out of 4. So then in order to figure out how many in total that will have brown and white legs, we multiply. So 4 times 2 is 8. 4 times 4, 16. Okay? So if we do 8 over 16 can also be reduced to 1/2. So half of the kids that they have will be brown with white legs, or should be, okay? So are you guys feeling a little bit more comfortable with this? A little bit more? Okay, so let's try one more. Did everyone get that? All of you guys got this? Okay. So now, here we have a cyclops. I'm not talking about a cyclops like the Greek mythology, you know, with the one eye. A cyclops is also a shellfish, a type of shellfish, okay? So it says a cyclops that is resistant to pesticides and has smooth antenna is crossed with one that is heterozygous for both traits. So resistance, non-resistant to pesticides is capital N, is dominant over resistant. Resistant would be recessive, okay? And then, actually, let me not do that. Then smooth or barbed antenna is dominant over smooth antenna. If you don't know what barbed antennas are, let me show you. Is this. It's the little like spiky things here. See that? That's what barbed antenna is, okay? All right. So now, again, you're gonna do the cross. I'm gonna give you guys 5 minutes. You can tell which one is dominant because it's capitalized, George. Yeah, you can do the first one as the boy and the second one's the girl. Yuvia. Okay. So the one that is resistant and is smooth antenna is the boy, and then the one that's heterozygous for both would be the girl. Oh, in this case, I told you because like it was another question that gave you something else. But usually they'll tell you, George. They'll tell you, they'll either put the capital or lowercase, or they'll tell you this trait is dominant to this trait. You're welcome. Yasmin, did you have a question? No, you just put male.
It was from the last one. I was gonna put it in, but then I pressed enter instead of delete.
Sienna, you are correct. I guess I should ask a question too, right? How many of them would be non-resistant with smooth antenna? I don't know if I know how to spell antenna. Oh, it's right there. Do. Okay. Lori, you're correct. Alexa, you are correct. Devin, you are correct for your fractions. Alexa Heck, you are correct. Israel, remember you need 2 letters for each one, so like you need big N, little n, or big N, or little n, big B, little b, little b, little b. George, your parent genotypes are correct, but look at your, what's it called again? Remember, non-resistant would be capital N. So if one of the 4 boxes has a capital, figure out the fraction. And then smooth antenna would be little b, So see which one. So your I think your, what's it called is wrong, your fraction. But your genotypes are, for the parents, are correct. I think your math might just be wrong. Yasmin, the female is good, but the male, you only put little n. What about the B's? Yes, Sienna, you're right. Yeah, Yasmin, you're correct. Okay, so even if you're not done, that's okay. But let's see, Kayla, will you tell me what, will you tell me, we'll make the first guy this guy. We'll make him the male. Okay, this one. Yep. Will you tell me what his genotype is, Kayla? So he is resistant to pesticides and he has smooth antenna. So what would it be? Yes, George. Are you there, Kayla? Okay. All right, so if he is resistant, right, that's little n. That's the recessive trait. So can someone help Kayla because she's not sure? What would be if you show the resistant or the recessive trait? What would it be? Yes, thank you, Sienna. So remember, anytime you show the trait that has the little or the lowercase, in order to show that trait, you have to have both little. You have to, okay? All right, so now Caleb, back to you. He also has smooth antenna, which is the recessive trait again. So what would he have for his B's? Thank you, yes, little b. Okay, so remember, he has both recessive traits. So not only is he resistant, which is the recessive trait, he's also had smooth antenna, which is the recessive trait. So all of his letters would be lowercase. Now for my female, Albert. She is heterozygous for both traits. What would be her genotype if she's heterozygous? Remember what hetero means. What does hetero mean? If you're heterosexual, right? Go ahead, Yasmin. If you're heterosexual, do you like men or do you like women if you're a guy? Do you like the same or do you like different?
Different.
Different, right? Okay, remember hetero always means capital, lowercase. So she's hetero for both traits, she'd be capital N, lowercase n, capital B, lowercase b. Okay? So then what I would do is I would just do my crosses. All right, and then I would put my male on top. I always put the male on top, I don't know why. And then the female on the bottom, or the side, big N, little n. And then I do the same thing with this side. She's big B, little b, and he is little b, little b. So you're gonna do the crosses. Is anyone confused of how you put the letters together? Like once you have your genotypes, how to do these boxes for the Punnett square? Everyone gets that? Okay. So we have big N, little n, big N, little n. We have little n, little n, little n, little n. And then we have big B, little b, big B, little b, little b, little b, little b. You kind of get it, Robert. So this, whenever you guys say kind of, I always imagine that you're just scared to say no, that you don't get it. So Robert, when you're doing the crosses, whatever letter you have in your row is the letter you put in one of the boxes. Whatever letter you have in the column, you join it together. So in this row, we have a big N. In this column, we have a little n. So in this box, I have big N, little n. Same thing on this side. I drag it all the way across. I have a big N here and a little n here. So in this box, I would need to have big N, little n. Okay. So like the row and the column, the letters that you have on the outside, you bring them together. So now for my resistant versus non-resistant. So my non-resistant is my dominant feature or trait. The way I know in the kids, like once I do my crosses, the way I know which ones are non-resistant is they have a capital. So 2 out of the 4 boxes have 1 capital, which is the dominant trait. So then we would put that fraction, 2 out of 4. For my resistant, it's the recessive, and the only way you can have the recessive trait is to have little, little. So in this case, I have 2 lowercase n, that's 1, 2 lowercase n, that's 2. So 2 out of 4 would be resistant. Then over here, barbed is my dominant feature. So 2 out of the 4 boxes would be barbed. And then smooth antenna, we would have 2 out of the 4 boxes. Okay. Is anyone confused of like once we do the crosses, how to get the fractions again? Do you guys get them? So remember, you put the traits, non-resistant, dominant, resistant, recessive, barbed, dominant, smooth, recessive. You put them here. And then if it's non-resistant, it should have an N in the box, at least one. If it's resistant, the only way it's resistant would be little n, little n. Same thing for barb. You should have either big B, or big B, little b to have barb, because both of those genotypes have the dominant trait. And then smooth would only be little b, little b. That's it. So now I wanted to know how many would be non-resistant and smooth antenna. So non-resistant is 2/4 times the smooth antenna, which is 2/4. So that would be 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 4 is 16. 4 divided by 16, or reduced, would also be 1/4. Or you can even say 25%. Make sure, some of you guys said 4/8. You multiply the top and you multiply the bottom, okay? Whenever you're multiplying fractions. Some of you have been adding those fractions, the bottom together, and that's not what you do. You don't add with fractions when you're multiplying across, okay? All right, so then that's how you do it. So we got 1/4 for it. If we did any of them, resistant and barbed, it's all 25%, okay? All right, guys, so now what you're gonna do, I posted, do I have any questions before we move on? Anything? All right, so now that I posted a assignment for you guys. Let me see. If you can go to your Google Classroom. Look at it, at your assignment. Delete this first one. This was from another, this was from another teacher. But she had her students do like little by little. So go ahead and delete that first slide. And then all you're gonna do is here, I have the terminology or the words that you guys should know. So like for this one, genotypes made of the same alleles. So when they have the same, what do we call them? Do you guys remember? If they're capital, capital, or lowercase, lowercase. Thank you, Alexa. We are homozygous. So then you would put an E. Okay? And then you would go to the next one and you would figure it out. Oh, thank you, Robert. And then for this one, dominant alleles, are they usually capitalized or lowercase? Capitalized, thank you. So they're usually capitalized, or they are capitalized. So we would put the circle around all the capitalized letters because those are the dominant alleles. And then recessive would obviously be the opposite, lowercase, right? You would just drag these over. Okay? And then you would do the rest with the other ones. This one would be a mono. So you have one guinea pig is big S, little s. The other is little s, little s. Short hair is dominant to long hair. So you'd put one parent here, the other parent here, and then you would do the cross. So it's big S in the first one. In this one, little s, little s. This one, big S, little s. And then little s, little s. Okay? So we have that. And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna tell me how many are short-haired. So how many boxes have a capital? 2. So 2 out of 4, what percentage is that?
1/2.
50, right? So 50% would be short. So if 50% is short, you already know what the other half is, or what the long hair is, right? Because it's little s, little s. There's 2 out of 4 too, which would be 50. For the genotypic ratio, Do we have any in our little 4 boxes that are capital? None of them, right? If you look here, there's none that are capital. So we would have 0 for big S, big S. We would have 2 for big S, little s. And then we would have 2 for little s, little s. Okay?